Hey guys, this is Comics G-Man. This is Video Archive Series number 2. And I'm not exactly sure what I talk about in this video. We will see. I was talking about the Supergirl comics at the time. So let's see what I was talking about here.
Guys, I also want to do another update. So besides watching the TV show, which you know clearly, I absolutely love that thing. I have been rereading the Peter David run, and I am enjoying the Peter David run. I finished the trade paperback volume 1, and I wrote 11 reviews on the 10 issues and the annual for that, and that will be for a separate video. I'm now on volume 2 of the Peter David run, and also I went back to read the Lex Luthor Team Luthor special from 1993 and the Supergirl Volume 3 1994 4 issues, where that was about Supergirl being getting cloned by Lex Luthor. Now I know there's way more history, so I did a little bit more research on it just to know which Action Comics and Superman comics I'll have to go back on to read about Supergirl's strange history. Now, I know she was killed off in Crisis on Infinite Earths. I already know. I actually read Crisis of Infinite Earths. I love that book a lot. I should have taken that out. I've got a copy of the deluxe edition somewhere here.
By the way, this video shows how old it is because I got way ahead, more than 10 issues on the Peter David run. I'm not sure how many reviews I did of it on Comic Book Roundup. Let me just see if I did 31 issues that I wrote down on here that I've reviewed. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's the farthest I got up to. I still have it out to read more of it, but I fell behind. So yeah, I was reading this all through January. Let me go to the most recent one. There's number 27. No, I read more than that. I just didn't write any reviews on it. But there's number 27. That's the last one, at least, that I reviewed on Comic Book Roundup. Let me go back. View. I didn't even write much on it. I guess I was getting tired. Needed a break from it for a little bit. I just wrote, nice. Granny's minions from Apocalypse show up in this issue. No, I definitely read more than that. I remember finishing this and reading, like, up to number 31. I'm pretty sure. Let me just see the covers just to remind myself. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, that's when Twilight comes in. More of the Granny fight. Granny's little girl. Oh, no, I read this one too. I didn't write anything about it. Yeah. This was like some weird, like, acidic blob thing that took the form of Supergirl. And it was literally like turning people into skeletons. No joke. I think it was. Oh, if I remember right, I think that was Matrix. Because in the Peter David run, she lets go of her past Matrix self and becomes actually Supergirl again. Matrix is like this kind of phony Supergirl, like a protoplasm. And it comes back for vengeance, pretty much. Okay, so no, I didn't read number 32, so number 31 is the farthest I got.
But yeah, like anyway, I know she dies, right? Oh, here it is. Hold on, guys. I didn't open this one. I got another copy, but this one I never opened. So Supergirl dies in Infinite Crisis, right? We see her here. There's an amazing a lot of the art by George Perez is just fucking peak legendary. George Perez is another one of my favorite classic comic book artists. That was one of the reasons that made me go to Crisis of Infinite Earths a few years ago. And this book is what changed my mind on I used to hate the multiverse idea because of how they handle it with Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse. I think it's fucking retarded. Deadpool makes fun of that with all the Deadpools.
I still think it's fucking retarded the way Marvel does multiverses. DC's not great anymore either at it, don't get me wrong. But on Infinite Earths did it right. That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
So that's an excuse. But the Spider-Man stuff, I thought, turned it into a total joke. it wasn't until I read Crisis on Infinite Earths for the first time where I realized, like, no, this could is a very cool concept if it's done right. And Marv Wolfman knew what he was doing when he wrote this beautiful masterpiece.
Yeah, Marv is great. He did the Titans, New Titans. He even wrote great stuff like on Vigilante, which is a very obscure, small book. But even in Vigilante, for like the 23 or 24 issues that he does, it's like some really great stuff. Marv is great. And I'm pretty sure Marv actually helped write something for the Superman Returns video game, because I remember watching like this documentary about like before Superman Returns came out and before the game came out, and they were talking about how they were making the city, modeling it, how they were making the enemies, the animations, and Marv Wolfman showed up in the documentary, and he was like really excited about it. And like, I mean, even though that game is, nobody talks about it, Superman Returns is still one of the worst Superman movies in my opinion. It's not because it's terribly made. It's well made, but it's a boring movie. It lacks any spirit. Like for a while in Superman Returns, I like Brandon Ruth was his name, right? I was like, Brandon Ruth is doing a really he really is trying to be like Christopher Reeves, you know? But after like the first half hour of the movie, it dies for some reason. And I saw recently actually an article where the director of Superman Returns, he literally was saying like he thinks the reason why the movie failed was because they focused so much on the Brandon Ruth Superman. They wanted him to be like a certain way, like Christopher Reeves and all that, capture that magic again, that they forgot about Lois Lane. And even before I read that article, I never liked that Lois Lane. That one of the worst Lois Lanes ever on screen. I even forgot her name. Totally forgettable performance. So bland, so boring. And the part where you find out that her son is Superman's son, it should have been way cooler than the movie did. So, but yeah, there were so many things. Superman Returns was so bad. But my point is, when Marv Wolfman was talking about the video game and everything, like you could see that Marv, like he genuinely fucking just loves this stuff. Like he's just a genuine comic book nerd. You gotta love him for that.
And I wasn't even like totally knowledgeable of every single thing at the time. I'm still not. I'm not saying that. But like he managed to make such a complicated story with so many different characters of the DC universe make a lot of sense in this. I mean, it was brilliant. And
Yeah, and there's no bullshit like, oh, Superman has super pig, disabled Superman, super douche, super cunt. You know what I mean? It's like actually well thought out the way they do the multiverse and the different things that are going on throughout the book and the way the crisis happens. I mean, it's really a great read, and you don't have to actually like know every single thing about DC or every character, because when I first read this book, like I think now it's been 4 or 5 years since I've read this book, maybe 2021, 2022. This was the book that got me back into comic books, and you wouldn't think it would be because you would think that you would need all this knowledge, but it worked. And they had every character, like pretty much most characters showed up in a panel here and there. You didn't have to know their history. You didn't have to know every reference. But it flowed so well that this book, it just made sense. And it's so memorable. I still, dude, reading about it, like Anti-Monitor, everything, like the images are still in my head to this day. This was the book that brought me back to comic books and DC specifically more. And that's the reason why I still stick with them, even though I don't like a lot of the stuff that they do. But I feel like DC just has a richer history, and they handle things a little more interestingly than Marvel does, in my opinion. I'm not saying that's a fact. No shit on Marvel fans, but that's just how I feel about it.
Marvel was, I don't think Marvel did a good job of any of that kind of stuff, and whether they're movies or they're comics, I think it comes off as stupid, cheap, and lame. So, but anyway, so Supergirl dies, right, in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I never realized how much that fucked her up because I didn't read anything after that, and I know about Death of Superman, but I never really read it. I just know the basic stuff about it, and I never realized what they did to Supergirl when they not brought her back because she's technically this Supergirl was dead. Like they killed her for real, and that was the end of Kara Zor-El. End. She died, right? Like no resurrection until apparently the Superman Batman comic series, and she appeared in number 8. But it was like a whole new Kara Zor-El, and so the Supergirl that we get is this. It's weird. In 1988, in a John Byrne Supergirl saga, he made her come as a protoplasm thing. Um, I mean, it's very strange, and I only had to figure that out because when I went to the 4 issues and the Lex Luthor special from 1993, I'm like, what the hell? You'll see when I talk about those specific comics. I was saying, what the hell? I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this protoplasm stuff. So it's not even Supergirl. It's this protoplasming thing that could change into anything, male, female, any alien monster.
Yeah, and throughout the like 1994 miniseries, which was like only 4 issues, she's like basically fucking Lex Luthor, having a romance with him, and he does look more like this. This looks like a more modern rendition though of the artwork, but like think of this, but more 1990s. Okay, so you all know the 19. It's more like this one here. Where is it? I just had it too. Here it is. This was it. This was the style. This is the art style of that 4 issue miniseries about Supergirl Matrix. And she finds out at the end of that, I remember correctly, that he ends up using her. He like was cloning her, and there's like different clones of her, and he was using her and all of that. I was not crazy about that, to be honest with you, because I'm gonna say it here. Actually, I won't repeat myself. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna say why I didn't like this idea.
And it just happens to turn itself into Supergirl, and it's not Kara, it's Matrix, and better put, Pa and Ma Kent call her May, which I prefer. I like May because it makes me think of Maisie. So, but like, it's like, holy crap! What the hell did DC do to Supergirl for 20 years? Let so, and you're gonna say, oh, but aren't you reading the Peter David run? Yeah, no, like that's what made me look into this because I'm like, I understand that she was some kind of experiment, but I had to look more into it because I was still kind of saying like I'm not really sure what's going on here. So it makes me understand more about what's going on in the Peter David run is the reason why in like issue 1 they show you, or was it the showcase 96 showcase issue, well never mind, they show you Supergirl May, right? Like she's depressed, she doesn't feel like she looks in the mirror, she doesn't see a soul behind her eyes, and then she ends up mixing it up with Linda Danvers' soul, and she's got a bit of humanity in her, so it makes sense. So she's a protoplasm who feels like it doesn't have any soul. So then Linda Danvers provides her with that essence. But man, this is some weird, overly complicated stuff. And don't worry, like, I know I shit on a lot of modern comics. I do, because most modern comics deserve to be shit on. But I'm not going to give everything from the past an A plus just because nostalgia and, oh wow, I'm going back in time to the 90s or 80s. Like, I got a lot of problems with what they did to Supergirl in.
Yeah, so here's the first trade paperback, right? And that issue that I'm talking about is like, it's not issue number 1, and it's not called issue number 0. It's called like Showcase something. Um, it's called Limited Resources. Peter David wrote it. It doesn't say what. I guess it's just like a showcase thing. I can't get the exact. It doesn't even have a thing on it. But like literally, she's like doing all these heroic things in it, but she's not sure why. She's like very confused about who she really is, and she's like very depressed about it. And she goes into like this hospital room, and she like goes into a slumber, and that's when Matrix merges with Linda Danvers, the woman who you find out is very evil, did a lot of evil things, but it's Supergirl's soul who ends up cleansing the evil out of Linda, and it's Linda's evil that brings this kind of balance. And in Peter David's run, it turns her into like basically an archangel. A lot of religious stuff in the Peter David run, and I think it's an awesome run. I'm surprised nobody actually even brings up this run anymore. Like now, whenever somebody brings up Supergirl, you just hear about fucking Tom King's Woman of Tomorrow. That's all I ever hear anybody bring up. Now, you don't even hear people bring up Rebirth, which is the most recent, right? Not counting. Well, Sophie Campbell is still very new. That needs a little time, I guess. But yeah, like here's Linda Danvers here. That's her other persona. But in this, she's another actual human being that Matrix merges with. And then that is how Supergirl's actual soul comes back into the world. So that's how Peter David brought back Supergirl into the DC universe. He brought her soul back through that. Because Matrix had no soul. Matrix is just a protoplasm. It's very weird. But like Peter David was brilliant enough to figure out how to bring Supergirl back in. He was given the weirdest thing by John Byrne. That's John Byrne's fault for doing that to Supergirl. He could have did anything else, right? Maybe bring another version of her. But why did he have to make her a protoplasm? And I think I say it in this video, but like I was reading some old threads, and they were saying something about like how John Byrne hated Supergirl, and he looked at her as protoplasm, like just a piece of shit. So if that's true, he's kind of an asshole, because she's more than that. There's nothing wrong with her. I'm just saying, man. I don't know. I could understand why somebody would feel like that, but I think she's fine. I like her a lot. So let's go on. I think I mentioned that here too.
In the 90s, bro. Like, what I give Peter David a lot of credit for is they kind of gave him a shit basket, and they're like, hey, Peter, why don't you make this look good? And I think he did a great job. And I won't go into the Peter David run now because I want that to be a whole project, a video. I'm going to read the whole run and, do my normal formula, 10 issues of video, and talk about what I feel. But, like, that was shit that they handed over to Peter David. And from what I understand, it was after Peter David's run where Jeff Loeb, from the Superman, Batman, and then they made their own run with Jeff Loeb started it, and then it turned into like a 2005 to 2011 run with Kara Zor-El again. So she came back. So I wonder what's going to happen to this protoplasm Matrix Supergirl in the Peter David run. Now, all I will say is I just don't like this idea that they turned Supergirl. Because it's not Supergirl. It's a protoplasmic goo. That's kind of weird. Like, Supergirl is not goo, bro. She's not goo. I wouldn't like it if you did that to Superman. It's like you're saying the most ideal symbolic character is nothing but a primordial piece of shit. What were you guys smoking? Is that John Byrne's doing? Because as much as I like John Byrne, because I was looking at some old, like, blogs, right? Like, of some real Supergirl fan blogs that I found because, if you want to learn more about stuff, you read the biggest fans, and they got a lot of good information. And they were doing some digging on this, and they think that, if I find it, I'll credit the person. I saved the page that was talking about this. They were talking about that they think John Byrne took the idea from like an old Action Comic 259 where Lex Luthor was experimenting with protoplasm and turned it into a living thing. So one guy was saying, the guy who wrote the blog was saying he believed that was John Byrne giving homage to that classic comic. The other people at the bottom were saying it was John Byrne taking ideas and acting like it's all his. So, I wasn't even born at the time, so I don't know. But I could tell the people who were reading this and blogging about it, they were around at the time, because the guy was saying like that Action Comic 279 he had as a kid, and that Action Comic was like probably the 70s. So that's very impressive, very cool, interesting. I like reading stuff like that. But and like I said, you learn from people who've been around longer than you reading stuff, and you know that's how you keep an open mind with people like that, and it helps you learn about other stuff. Anyway, so like, but then another guy was saying like, oh well, John Byrne turned Supergirl into protoplasm because he hated Supergirl because John Byrne always looked at Supergirl as like a that she demeaned Superman, made Superman less. And I'm like, you know, I could actually see that actually. As much as I love John Byrne, his art style and stuff, like that is a little believable, you know, because I don't see any justification for turning Supergirl into a protoplasmic goop piece of shit. Like, if that was me in the saga of Supergirl, I don't know. I mean, I know resurrection stuff is fucking like overdone, but at the very least, get a Supergirl from another multiverse or something. You know what I mean? Like, in that case, I would say it's justified, so you can have Supergirl back in the world of DC Universe, right? But to have her be a protoplasm, I'm gonna have to agree with the guy who commented on that blog. To me, that seems insulting. To me, that seems like John Byrne is shitting on Supergirl. I don't like that. I don't like that. I wouldn't like it if you did it to Superman. I don't like it that you did it to Supergirl. That's his cousin. It makes him look less. That's his cousin. He's got to have some people. What the hell was wrong with that? She's a great character. I like her a lot. So, but yeah. So this has just been an update about, you know, what I'm reading right now. After I read the Peter David run, I'm gonna go straight to the Jeff Loeb run. I mean, Jeff Loeb doesn't write the whole run. There's a lot of different writers from Sterling to I forgot the other names, but I want to read that because that's where Kara comes back, and it's not this Linda Danvers Matrix mix. And you know what's a little off about the Peter David run? They don't really call her Matrix at all in this. Like, only one time where she visits Mom, Pa Kent, where they're talking to each other, and she's like telling them what's going on. They call her May. But throughout the comic, they just call her Linda. So it's a bit confusing. But like I said, like, dude, Peter David, like, they handed him, in my opinion, a pile of shit, and he managed to turn it into a nice piece of steak. I think he did a good job with what they offered him. That's tough, you know. But thank God in 2004, 2005, they brought her back because, like I said, I don't need to repeat myself. And also, I will probably read the CW comics by Starling, I think, who wrote that, because I love the CW show, and I just want more CW Supergirl, so I can't wait to read. That was only like $5 on Thrift Books. $5 trade paperback of all the 13 digital comics, so that's sick. That's awesome. And as a bonus, at the end of all of this, I will read the Paul Kupperberg run, which I look forward to read, because that's like freaking 1980s, like all the way pre protoplasm Supergirl. Now, will I go back to the Silver Age Supergirl? I don't know. You know, like, I don't know if I have the showcase volumes of Supergirl that have a lot of the Supergirl issues from the Silver Age, you know, but I'm just not sure if, you know, like, I read the Silver Age stuff as just kind of like a fun thing. You know, I don't know if there's much to really talk about with that, you know, because the Silver Age stuff is really kind of, it's good stuff. I love, like, dude, I love Silver Age Batman. I love Silver Age stuff. But I don't know if I could really talk about deep stuff with it. Like with the Peter David stuff, dude, holy shit. Like, you're going to hear me talking about, like, Illuminati, Satanism. Helena Blavatsky comes up because you see all these symbols in it. Like, you know, like, that's the kind of stuff I could talk about in my videos, where there's these deep meanings in it. Or, at the very least, like, something you could talk about of the time period that is interesting to talk about. But the Silver Age stuff is really, you know, I might be wrong. If you guys think I should talk about Silver Age stuff, tell me if you want me to talk about, if you think Supergirl Silver Age is worth talking about. But But yeah, guys, thanks for listening to me on this. And yeah, I've been really getting into this a lot with Supergirl, and it's not just because I want to shit on James Gunn's piece. Like, look, you know what? I'll make that for another video.
All right, so that was cool. It was a good way to kind of just talk about the Peter David run finally. This Peter David stuff deserves like full edits, full analysis, but I just don't have the time for that. And I just at least want like my thoughts on my channel, so it's on record. Like what I think about this stuff. Um, I just don't have the time now to do the editing. It's just I can't do it right now. Maybe I don't know when, but I'm just not up for it. This is good enough for me right now. But I hope it's for any Supergirl fans that enjoyed this. Please let me know your thoughts on what we discussed in this. Tell me, do you know if John Byrne did really hate Supergirl and that's why he chose to do the whole protoplasm bullshit instead of just bringing her back somehow like they eventually did? And that, do you agree with me that Peter David did really good in how he brought her back in his way? Talk to me. Let me know in the comments. And like and subscribe.